I just got back from the Symposium for Metabolic Health in San Diego, where I had the opportunity to speak about something that comes up constantly in the low-carb and keto world. When does ketosis really matter? And after spending several days surrounded by conversations about metabolic health, ketogenic diets, and ketones, I kept thinking about a question I hear all the time from people in our community. I'm doing everything right. I'm keeping my carbohydrates low. I'm fasting. I'm exercising. I feel great. My glucose looks good. So why are my ketones only 0.4? Or maybe they used to be 1.5 and now they're 0.7. And suddenly they think something has gone terribly wrong. Well, maybe nothing has gone wrong. In fact, by the end of this video, I'm going to show you why a lower ketone reading can sometimes tell you much less about your metabolism than you think. And here's the concept I really want you to remember. Your ketone meter measures concentration. It does not measure metabolic traffic. That distinction changes almost everything. And if you know somebody who is chasing higher and higher ketones and getting frustrated by that meter, like this video and share it with them, because we may be able to save them from fighting with a perfectly innocent fingerstick device. Let's start with what that meter is actually measuring. Most blood ketone meters measure beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB, which is one of the major ketone bodies circulating in the blood. When insulin is sufficiently low and fatty acids become available to your liver can convert those fatty acids into ketone bodies. But here's where things get interesting. The number on the meter doesn't simply tell you how many ketones your liver produces. It tells you how much beta-hydroxybutyrate happens to be in your bloodstream at that moment. Imagine a bathtub. The faucet represents ketones being produced by the liver. The drain represents ketones being taken up and used by tissues such as your brain, heart, and skeletal muscle. And the water level, that's your blood ketone concentration. If the faucet is running quickly, but the drain is also running quickly, the water level doesn't necessarily get very high. And that's why one of my favorite ways to explain this is, your meter measures the ketones waiting in the bloodstream. It doesn't count all the ketones that already went to work. Scientists have demonstrated versions of this phenomenon for decades. In a classic human fasting study examining ketone metabolism during exercise, blood ketone concentrations initially fell during exercise, while ketone uptake and oxidation increased. Think about that. Someone could have checked their ketones, seen the number falling, and thought, my workout kicked me out of ketosis. Meanwhile, their tissues were actually using more ketones. That leads to one of the most important concepts in this entire video. Concentration is not flux, and flux describes metabolic movement, how rapidly something is being produced, transported, used, and cleared. Your home ketone meter cannot measure that. And here's where things get even stranger. Very high ketones don't necessarily mean that you're an unbelievably efficient ketone burning machine either. Classic studies of prolonged fasting showed that as ketones become very elevated, ketone clearance could actually decrease. In other words, part of that higher concentration can reflect ketones accumulating faster relative to their removal. So 3.0 is not automatically better metabolism than 0.8. This is not a ketone Olympics. There is no medal ceremony at 3 millimoles per liter. Now let me give you a real-world example that I think my low-carb audience will appreciate. Researchers studied endurance athletes after 12 weeks on a very low-carbohydrate ketogenic diet. These athletes dramatically increased their ability to oxidize fat during exercise, but their average fasting beta-hydroxybutyrate at the end of the intervention was only around 0.5 millimoles per liter. So imagine telling these highly fasted adapted athletes, sorry, your ketones are only 0.5. You're obviously not burning fat. The physiology says otherwise. And this is where we need to separate fat burning from ketone concentration. They are related, but they are not synonymous. Now, there are several perfectly reasonable reasons your ketones might be lower than you expected. First, timing matters. Ketones measured first thing in the morning aren't necessarily comparable with ketones measured late in the afternoon. Recent food, fasting duration, exercise, sleep, and hormonal signals can all change the reading. So if you're actually tracking trends, compare yourself under reasonably similar conditions. Same approximate time, similar fasting duration, similar relationship to your last meal and exercise. Otherwise, you're comparing apples and avocados. Second, let's talk about protein. People sometimes tell me, my ketones dropped. I must be eating too much protein. Maybe protein contributed to the lower beta-hydroxybutyrate. Protein can stimulate insulin, but it also stimulates glucagon. And the metabolic response is very different from consuming a large carbohydrate load. So before you slash your protein to make your ketone meter happier, ask a better question. Would eating less protein actually make me healthier? If you're trying to preserve muscle while losing weight, particularly as you get older, I would be very careful about sacrificing adequate protein just to turn 0.6 into 1.4. You're trying to improve the human being, not impress the meter. Third, yes, check for carbohydrate creep, sauces, dressings, processed keto foods, nuts that somehow turn from one serving into half the bag, dairy, beverages, supplements. Those carbohydrates can accumulate. If your blood glucose has also risen and your ketones have unexpectedly fallen, that's certainly something worth investigating. But don't assume hidden carbohydrates are the explanation every time. Fourth, look at dietary fat. This is fascinating because somebody can sometimes raise their ketones by consuming more ketogenic fat, particularly medium-chain triglycerides. But suppose your primary goal is losing body fat. If you start adding butter, MCT oil, and fat bombs, specifically to force your ketones higher, you may improve your ketone score without improving your actual objective. You gave your liver more incoming fat to work with. That doesn't automatically mean you're burning more fat from your waste. And exogenous ketones make this even easier to understand. You can literally consume ketones and raise your blood beta-hydroxybutyrate substantially. But drinking ketones doesn't suddenly mean you've become keto-adapted. Researchers studying exogenous ketones emphasize that exogenous ketones and nutritional keto adaptation are different physiological states. The meter knows beta-hydroxybutyrate is there. The meter doesn't know how it got there. That's huge. Now here's another thing people rarely discuss. You're not even measuring every ketone. Blood meters generally measure beta-hydroxybutyrate. Urine strips primarily detect acetoacetate. Breath meters measure acetone. They're related, but they are not identical measurements. This explains something many people experience after starting keto. Initially, their urine strips turn dark purple. Several weeks later, these strips barely change color. And they panic. I'm not making ketones anymore. Not necessarily. Research comparing urine acetoacetate with blood beta-hydroxybutyrate has shown that urine strips can miss mild nutritional ketosis surprisingly often. So I would not use disappearing purple urine strips as evidence that your ketogenic diet stopped working. And here's another fascinating piece of information. People are different. Recent research involving thousands of individuals found that fasting beta-hydroxybutyrate varies with factors beyond simply what somebody ate, including age, sex, and hormonal status. Older fasting experiments also demonstrated substantial differences in the ketone response between men, women, and children after comparable fasting periods. So please don't compare your 0.7 to somebody on Instagram, proudly holding up a meter that says 2.8. Compare you with you, preferably under similar conditions. And even your measurement technique introduces some noise. Research comparing capillary and venous beta-hydroxybutyrate measurements show that they do track one another but aren't perfectly interchangeable. So if one meter says 0.4 and another says 0.6, please don't call an emergency meeting with your mitochondria. Now we arrive at the most important question. Why do you want higher ketones in the first place? If your goal is weight loss, improved insulin sensitivity, better glucose control, lower triglycerides, reduce hunger, or improve metabolic health, I care about much more than beta-hydroxybutyrate. What is happening to your waist, your body composition, your glucose, your fasting insulin, your triglycerides and HDL, your blood pressure, your hunger, your energy? How do you feel? If all of those things are moving in the right direction and your ketones went from 1.3 to 0.7, I would ask, which scoreboard deserves our attention? And that's one of the biggest things I was reminded while attending the Symposium for Metabolic Health. We can become so fascinated by ketosis that we forget to ask, why are we trying to create ketosis in the first place? Because the answer changes everything. If somebody is using a ketogenic diet as a therapeutic intervention for a medical condition, classically epilepsy, for example, the degree and consistency of ketosis can become much more relevant. Even there isn't one magical beta-hydroxybutyrate number appropriate for everybody. And ketogenic therapies probably work through mechanisms extending beyond beta-hydroxybutyrate itself. But therapeutic ketosis is different from simply trying to improve metabolic health. And there's one safety point I don't want anyone to miss. If you have diabetes, ketones require special attention. These medications have been associated with a rare but serious condition called euglycemic diabetic ketoacidosis, where dangerous ketoacidosis can occur even without dramatically elevated glucose. Published case reports have specifically described euglycemic DKA when GLT2 inhibitors were combined with ketogenic diets. So if you're taking one of these medications and develop elevated ketones along with nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, dehydration, rapid breathing, or feeling significantly ill, don't reassure yourself simply because your glucose isn't very high. That requires medical evaluation. But for everybody else who's feeling fantastic, improving metabolically, and staring disappointedly at a beta-hydroxybutyrate of 0.6, here's what I want you to remember. Your ketone meter is a tool. It is not a metabolic report card. It measures concentration, not ketone production, not total ketone utilization, not total fat oxidation, not insulin sensitivity, not body fat loss, and certainly not your worthiness as a member of the keto community. So the next time that meter gives you a number you don't like, don't immediately ask, how do I get my ketones higher? Instead, ask, what am I actually trying to accomplish? Because once you know the goal, you can decide whether that ketone number matters at all. Now, if you do need a ketone meter, and you're asking which company I would recommend Keto Mojo. And I'll be sure to put my affiliate link in the video comments. I'm Dr. Tony Hampton, and remember, don't chase numbers without understanding what those numbers actually mean. Because sometimes the number you're trying to desperately fix was never broken in the first place.